You are listening to the Empowering Working Moms podcast, Real Talk with Dr. Prianca Naik, a show to help professional moms in survival mode to take hold of their lives and thrive. If you're ready to take powerful action to create your best life, then this is the show for you. I'm your host, Dr. Prianca Naik, board-certified internal medicine physician and certified life coach. Now let's get to it and dive in. You are listening to the Empowering Working Moms podcast, episode number 30. Good morning, and thank you so much for tuning in. Well, I guess I'm saying good morning because it is the morning for me. This morning I actually woke up, and I will be honest, I did not want to get out of bed. I am on call, and when I'm on call, it's busier. I work the weekend, so I miss out on all kinds of fun. So what I did was I set an intention in my mind that I was going to create joy during the day and record my podcast before I go off to work. So here goes. I want to tell you a little bit about my coaching program. It helps moms in male-dominated fields who are suffering from burnout to enjoy the life that they've worked so hard to build using my proven methodology to heal the underlying causes. To get started on enjoying your life, check out my free masterclass on 4 methods to love your life. Link is in the show notes. Today, I want to talk about something that has been coming up a lot for me and my clients, and that is truly understanding the way that our brain works, recognizing the patterns that are so deeply ingrained, these habits and patterns that probably formed before we can even remember. They started when we were young children. They're old stories, old narratives, and while some of them are helpful and beneficial, others most certainly do not serve us. So the first step in really dealing with this issue is to be aware that these stories exist and we all have them. So after you listen to this episode, I highly encourage you to be active in noticing how your brain functions, where your brain goes, the stories that you're telling yourself, etc. For example, you might have a sudden urge to blame yourself every time something goes wrong. This obviously isn't helpful. It doesn't feel good. And often, this modus operandi can come from being blamed by a parent or a sibling growing up, being the scapegoat of your family. Maybe you were the problem child. And so when you hear that all the time in childhood, maybe throughout your young adulthood, as an adult, your brain starts blaming you automatically. And obviously, that's not fun. One thing I realized in my own journey, which has decreased my own personal suffering and also helped me to not feel exhausted, is to increase my awareness in general. Today, I'm going to dive into increasing awareness of your own mental patterns that aren't serving you or adding an extra layer of stress and anxiety to what you are already dealing with. Here are some further examples to clarify. When anyone raises his or her voice, I personally get triggered. I feel anxious, and I definitely feel a squeezing in my throat. This probably comes from being a child and feeling unsafe when I was yelled at. I became aware of this in the past few years, and of course, our brains are wired to keep us safe and scan for threats. This is obviously useful. However, instead of fully diving into feeling threatened with raised voices, which would increase my anxiety and suffering, I can actually choose to acknowledge that this is my pattern and to not beat myself up about that pattern. To not say to myself, why are you getting anxious when people are yelling? Why do you have to do that? Because that's what my old voice in my head used to do. It would beat me up, question why I was having a reaction. But now I can notice it with compassion and say, yes, this is my usual response, and that's okay. I am okay. I am safe. I don't have to feed into this threat any further. I don't have to beat myself up about my natural response. So there is a layer of lightness, of airiness that you can create with this approach. This will help you feel lighter and to move beyond exhaustion and mental burnout with this simple practice. Now I'm going to talk about something that's a little bit tougher. How about getting triggered by your parents? This one is hard because those relationships are long-standing and deep, right? What is your go-to response when you feel uncomfortable? Do you have an idea of it? Can you see it? How about isolating your approach to just you, assuming that your parent may not be able to hear the way that you want to be heard, and managing your pattern and response, being able to be gentle with first notice and then be gentle with yourself. This is one small step you can take. How can you depower the negative effect of an unpleasant conversation or interaction you might have with a family member? Knowing your pattern, knowing your usual story, by knowing that, you arm yourself, you empower yourself to have a different approach. One thing that has helped me with my old pattern, and the old pattern to which I refer is seeking my parents' approval. Okay, I'm sure you can relate to this. This is just normal and human. Children seek their parents' approval. I'm sure you notice in your own children, they seek your approval. And of course, in Indian culture, which is my culture, the one I'm familiar with, parents' approval is huge. Respecting your parents is huge. It's very much a patriarchal, matriarchal society. So with this one deeply ingrained, of course, I want to emulate many of their good qualities, such as hard work, major involvement with their kids, and setting a good example for my own kids the way my parents did for me in so many ways, countless ways. However, there are things that I do not want to carry forward. Sorry, mom and dad, if you're listening, right? There are things I want to do differently. So when I find myself seeking their approval for something that I know is the right thing for me, for my family, and maybe not getting it from them, I ask myself if I want to copy their behavior in that specific situation, if I truly want to emulate them, or I ask myself, are they an expert in this matter? Probably not. And if the answer is no, then I let go of their approval and I find trust in myself and comfort in my own way. If you are unhappy about your job or relationship, what is your story surrounding that? What is the narrative that you're telling yourself about what's going on? Is it helpful? Is it not? Maybe it's, I'm not appreciated. I'm not valued. And the reason I'm talking about this today is because I have noticed in my clients, they will tell me something, a narrative, a story as fact. And that is something that they are subscribing to. And they believe it as fact. And these stories as fact, that really dictates our experience of life, our perception. And what we end up doing is we give power away to these stories. Can you imagine giving power to a story? Because it's really not a fact. Facts are objective circumstances, like numbers, like the amount of money in your bank account. That's a fact. What you make it mean, though, is a story, if that makes sense. So when we have these stories or thoughts that are not positive, if that's the story that you're telling, begin to be aware and realize that these are stories and not facts. When we can see narratives for what they are, they no longer own us. We take away their power over us and our experience. And actually, we empower ourselves. And that is really what this is about. This is the movement I want to create in helping you to empower yourself to step in your best life because you deserve it. And you're freaking smart and you're successful and you're capable. So there's no reason that you should be burned out, exhausted, and not thriving. In my mindfulness method, with the steps of noticing, neutralizing, and then creating a new thought. Noticing is just being aware of the first step in dealing with any situation. And then once you actually notice, this will help you to neutralize the situation, to take away the emotional charge. The last and final step in this is to pick a new thought. When you pick a new thought, you replace the aforementioned unhelpful thoughts with something that's helpful, like, I am loved, I am appreciated, I am safe. I really like the I am safe one when I'm feeling anxious or nervous. I know as planners and especially physicians, our job is to rule out the worst case scenario. At work, we have to catastrophize to keep patients safe. But that way of thinking is not helpful in our personal lives. So being able to, when you're going down a rabbit hole, when you are anxious about what the future is going to bring or worrying constantly about stuff out of your control or far down in the future, what really helps is to take a minute, notice your body. I put my hand on my chest and I literally take a breath and say to myself, I am okay. I am safe. And as corny as that sounds, because believe me, before I started coaching and found this work and this process, I would have thought, what is this woman talking about? Like, that is so lame. Lame or not, it works. And it's so helpful in centering and grounding yourself. And that is how you decrease your suffering. You decrease how much you're suffering from anxiety, and you're able to take your power back. You feel powerful, that you can manage your emotions, you can manage your thoughts to create a better, more fulfilled, peaceful life experience. When you do this, you're going to feel more fulfilled and enjoy your life, have greater life satisfaction overall. If this sounds appealing to you and you would like to get started on this work, my program helps moms in male-dominated fields who are suffering from burnout to enjoy the life that they've worked so hard for, using my proven methodology to truly heal the underlying causes. To get started on enjoying your life, check out my free masterclass on 4 methods to loving your life, link in the show notes, and I will talk to you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Empowering Working Moms podcast, Real Talk with Dr. Prianca Naik. If you are ready to get unstuck and out of survival mode to live your best life, I want to invite you to book a free 30-minute consultation call with me. To get started, visit priancanaikmdcoaching.as.me. Link in the show notes.